If you don't get through on the telephone today or you don't want to, you can email TV to atheist-community.org. That goes to myself, most of the co-hosts, some of the people behind the scenes as well. Also, after the show's over today, we'll be going to El Arroyo on 5th Street. We got about 25 minutes or so left, and we'll be down there around 5 o'clock for a couple hours. Any atheist or atheist-friendly person is welcome to join us down there. Hey, we don't need all of that up there. We had credits up already.
I'm not...
That's all right. Is Chris?
Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. How are yourself?
Good.
Fine.
Mike, I have one question and a second question if we have time. My first question is about the Richard Dawkins lecture on the UT campus.
Right.
Yeah.
I actually had an opportunity to go out to that lecture, and it was really great. But I thought that his argument was a little bit flawed in the major problem he found with organized religion.
Which argument?
Well, one of the things that he continuously cited was that faith is the major basis for organized religion, but it necessarily can't be proved or disproved.
I don't remember him discussing that at all.
He spoke about it at the end during the question section.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also an opinion that he expressed in a couple previous lectures I saw online.
Okay, maybe you're just phrasing it differently, but what was the point?
The point was that faith is the basis for organized religion, but it necessarily can't be proved or disproved.
Okay.
It's sort of the reason for believing in organized religion.
I guess sort of I see what you're saying. I guess sort of
basically.
I guess almost the definition of faith that he and I actually would use is belief that doesn't rest on material evidence.
Yeah, exactly. That's almost exactly how he phrased it, I think.
Okay.
And I think the same argument can be made against atheism as well.
Really? How?
In that, if there's no evidence that God exists or does not exist, so atheism is just as flawed in its argument because it can't be proven or disproven by the same means.
Let's go with Loch Ness Monster.
Loch Ness Monster. Go for it.
Do you believe that the Loch Ness Monster exists?
Probably not, but I mean, I won't be punished.
Congratulations. With regard to the Loch Ness Monster, you are the equivalent of an atheist. There is no, I mean, theism is the proposition that a God actually exists, that you believe that a God exists. Anything short of that belief, whether it's doubt, whether you use like a colloquial definition of agnosticism, it's all atheism. There's theism and there's atheism, those people who do not believe. Now, there's a separate category of anti-theist or strong atheism where you believe and positively assert that no gods exist. You may consider that to be unreasonable. I know plenty of people who do. However, I think that in my case, just because there are two options, either God exists or God does not exist, that does not make the odds 50-50 between the two of them. So what I'm doing and what atheists are doing is rejecting this proposition that God exists. It takes no faith to do that. I'm not relying on faith at all. I'm saying this proposition, the case has not been made for it. The evidence has not managed to demonstrate the efficacy of this claim. That's it. It doesn't take faith. All it takes is an examination of the evidence and saying, nope, you haven't met your burden of proof.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from. I'm personally an atheist, but I think that sort of the evidence that you would cite in either case doesn't prove or disprove either case. Just looking at the existence of God alone.
Right, but the point of bringing up something like the Loch Ness Monster is that you can't disprove the existence of the Loch Ness Monster either. But atheism is only the position that it's not worth actively putting a belief in something that you don't know exists. That basically the correct attitude is being skeptical toward the existence of anything that doesn't have any evidence behind it. The default attitude.
That makes sense, but to take your analogy of the Loch Ness Monster and maybe extend it a little bit, take the position of you and I not believing in the Loch Ness Monster, and consider that if the Loch Ness Monster does exist and we don't believe in the Loch Ness Monster, we burn in hell eternally. However, if we don't believe in the Loch Ness Monster and he doesn't exist, then we're okay.
Oh, so what you're doing...
From a theoretic standpoint, and the two of you being middle-aged, slightly overweight men, wouldn't it be better for you to play it safe?
I don't know that he actually qualifies for the slightly overweight, but what you're actually
quite a bit.
What you're actually doing with that is making an appeal to Pascal's wager, which is basically saying that if the Christian is right, and by the way, I don't believe for a second that you're an atheist, but if the Christian
or
is
that
right,
you were at the Richard Dawkins
then they get
lecture.
to go to heaven forever, and they've lost nothing. But if we're right, nobody's lost anything because we're all dead. And Pascal's wager fails on every single level. It's a false dichotomy. It ignores all the other possible religions. It ignores other heavens. It ignores other hells. It makes the claim that worshiping, believing costs you nothing when that's not true. If this is the one and only life you have, then every minute that you've spent believing, worshiping, every dime that you've spent in deference to a God is wasted. So there's not a no-loss situation at all. And also, just because you happen to believe in one particular God doesn't mean you've avoided the hell of some other one. It's flawed start to finish, whether you use the Loch Ness Monster or Jeebus. It doesn't make any difference. And by the way, it also makes a couple of other presumptions. One, it presumes that belief is subject to the will, and that by determining that you're in a safe bet situation, you can go ahead and choose to believe as kind of like a covering your ass thing, which also makes the presumption that this God that you're believing in is silly enough that he'll buy into your covering your ass conclusion. Pascal's wager is one of the most ridiculous things. As a matter of fact, when anybody starts emailing to have a conversation with me outside of the show, the first thing I tell them is, I'll have any conversation, I'll consider any evidence you present for the existence of God, I'll have whatever discussion you want, using whatever definitions you want. But the second you bring up Pascal's wager, the conversation's over. And so goodbye.
And by the way, for future callers, you do not have to lie in order to get on the show.
Yeah.
You can actually say who you are, and we will let you on.
As a matter of fact, when calls are full, if you tell me that you're some raving young earth creationist who thinks that I sacrifice
We will probably
puppies to
move
Satan,
you right to the front.
you're getting ahead of somebody calling in to say, hey, you're doing a great job on the show. We love watching it. I mean, yeah, I appreciate all those. I love all those calls and that feedback. And we like to know that anything that we've talked about or done here has served somebody in some way. But the show's really about prompting discussion. And one of the things that we find enjoyable and that a lot of the viewers find enjoyable is conversations between people who disagree. I'm not trying to convince that guy's mind or change that guy's mind or convince him of anything, but there are other people listening. And, we don't want to turn this into the, patting each other on the back show. So,
No, of
yeah,
course not.
if you're a young Earth creator, please call in and tell me what is it that has convinced you that the Earth is 6,000 to 10,000 years old, and how you dismiss all of the geological evidence that exists, actually,
Right.
since it all disputes you. But